As a parent, it's so tough to watch your kids struggle in school,
Yeah.
especially when you see them, really trying
All
hard,
right.
putting in the effort, but they're just not getting it.
Absolutely.
And, for so many parents, that frustration really comes to a head with math
Yeah.
because to us, it feels so basic,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like we get it, so why don't they get it?
It seems straightforward.
Right. And so you start to think, well, maybe they're just not good at math.
Yeah, you think, is my child just not a math person?
Right. But what if we've been thinking about it all wrong?
Hmm. That's interesting.
What if the problem isn't a lack of ability, but like
Yeah.
a missing piece of the puzzle?
I think that's a really insightful way to put it.
Okay, so
And it really often is about, we tend to jump to these conclusions about ability when really there are a lot of underlying skills at play.
what?
And one of the most crucial ones that often gets overlooked is pattern recognition.
Okay, so pattern recognition.
Yeah.
We hear that term a lot, but in the context of learning, like how would you define that?
So at its core, pattern recognition is about identifying regularities
Okay,
and being able to make predictions based on those regularities.
got it.
So, you see a sequence, you're trying to spot what the next shape is going to be, or you have a series of numbers and you're trying to figure out what number should logically come next.
Yeah.
Our brains are really wired to look for order and meaning in the world around us. And pattern recognition is a huge part of that.
I see. So it's like those games we used to play, as kids.
Totally.
What comes next in this pattern?
Yeah.
So I can see how that's like a foundation for logical thinking.
Absolutely.
But how does that connect directly to math?
So math, at its essence, is really a language of patterns. Numbers themselves follow patterns. Even numbers always increasing by 2.
Right.
Multiples of 5 always ending in a 5 or a 0.
Yeah.
You've got geometric patterns and shapes, and then even as you get into more complex math like algebra and calculus, there are patterns everywhere.
Yeah.
And so recognizing those patterns is key to really understanding the underlying logic of math,
Okay.
instead of just memorizing a bunch of isolated facts and procedures.
So that brings us to like that classic drill and kill method.
Yep.
Multiplication tables, flashcards.
Right.
A lot of us, grew up with that.
Yeah.
Do you think that approach is inherently flawed?
So it's not that memorization is bad in itself.
Okay.
I mean, memorizing certain facts can be helpful. But the problem is when it becomes the primary mode of learning math.
Got it.
So if a child is just memorizing without understanding the why,
Yeah.
they're not building that solid foundation.
So it's almost like they're...
It's like trying to learn a language by just memorizing a dictionary.
Yeah.
You might know a lot of words, but you can't form a sentence. You can't actually communicate.
Right. It's like they're being asked to follow a recipe, but they don't know like what the ingredients are.
Exactly.
Or why they're combined in a certain way.
Exactly. And that lack of understanding can lead to so much anxiety.
Yeah.
That sense of being bad at math, and even just a dislike for the subject altogether because they're not seeing the connections.
Right.
They're not having that aha moment when a concept clicks.
So then how do we shift from this rote memorization to something that really emphasizes pattern recognition?
Right.
Like, is it even possible to rewire those thought patterns, especially if a child has already started to struggle?
Well, the good news is our brains are incredibly adaptable, and this is thanks to something called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, it sounds like a superhero power.
It kind of is.
Right.
It essentially means that our brains can change and form new connections throughout our lives based on our experiences and what we learn.
Sure.
So even if a child has struggled with math in the past, their brain is still capable of developing stronger pattern recognition skills with the right kind of stimulation.
That's really encouraging to hear. So instead of looking at it like, oh, they just aren't good at math,
Right.
it's like, no, this is a skill that can be developed.
Absolutely. It's about creating opportunities for them to engage with patterns in a way that feels natural and playful and ultimately rewarding.
Yeah.
So they can start to make those connections and see the beauty in those patterns. And the great thing is, these opportunities to work on pattern recognition, they're everywhere.
Right.
We don't need fancy programs or, tutors or anything
Right.
to really nurture these skills.
So where do we start? Like, what are some things that parents can do at home
Yeah.
to really target pattern recognition?
Absolutely. So let's start with some classic games and activities that you probably already have around the house.
Okay.
Pattern blocks, for example, are fantastic.
I remember those.
Yeah.
The colorful wooden shapes.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, instead of just letting kids free build with them, which is great,
Yeah.
But you can encourage them to build and extend patterns.
Okay.
Start a pattern and ask them what comes next. Or can you make this pattern longer?
Gotcha.
And so you're getting them to think about those repeating units
Yeah.
and really predict what comes next. And that's so crucial for understanding sequences in math.
Okay. So we're talking about like visual and spatial patterns there.
Yeah.
What about those number patterns we were talking about?
Right.
How do you bring those to life at home?
So you can do that with something as simple as a deck of cards.
Okay.
Play games where you have to arrange the cards in numerical order or create sequences.
Got it.
Even something like Go Fish, where you're looking for pairs,
Yeah.
is
Oh, yeah.
subtly reinforcing pattern recognition.
Yeah, it's like sneaking in the learning.
Totally.
They don't even realize.
Exactly.
What else? What are some other everyday things?
Cooking is a great example. You can talk about fractions as you divide up ingredients or,
Yeah.
Doubling and halving recipes.
Yeah.
Music is another fantastic one. Clapping out rhythms, playing instruments, or even just listening to music and identifying those repeating melodies.
Right.
All of that contributes to building pattern recognition skills.
And it makes me think about how, like, so many of these concepts in math, they're all connected.
Absolutely.
Like fractions and division or geometry and spatial reasoning.
They all build on each other.
If we can help kids to see those connections from the beginning,
Yeah.
it takes away some of the mystery and makes it feel less intimidating.
Precisely. And the research really backs this up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a study published in the journal Developmental Psychology,
Okay.
and they found that children who received instruction specifically in pattern recognition showed significant improvements not only in their math skills,
Okay.
but also in their overall cognitive flexibility.
So it goes beyond just the math.
Absolutely.
It's like having these ripple effects.
It really is.
That's really promising.
Yeah.
But I'm sure some parents out there are thinking,
Yeah.
okay, this is great, but how do I know if my child is actually making progress?
Right. So there are some really clear signs that you can look for. And one is that aha moment.
Yeah.
We talked about when they finally get a pattern,
Right.
you might see them starting to create their own patterns, whether it's with toys or drawings or just even arranging objects around the house.
So moving beyond just recognizing it to creating it.
Exactly, showing that they've internalized that concept.
Gotcha.
And you'll probably also notice that they're able to make predictions more easily,
Okay.
like guessing what comes next in a song or a story.
Yeah.
And that's a sign that they're starting to see the world through this, pattern-seeking lens.
Like a superpower they're developing.
It really is.
But let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Not every kid is going to be a math whiz.
Right.
So are there benefits to focusing on pattern recognition?
Totally.
Even if a child, continues to have some struggles.
Absolutely, because even if they don't, become the next Einstein, the skills that they gain from pattern recognition are transferable to so many other areas of life.
Like what specifically?
Well, think about problem solving.
Mm.
Pattern recognition helps us to identify the root cause of a problem
Right.
and find efficient solutions. It helps with critical thinking, analyzing information, making logical connections.
Okay.
And these are skills that are essential in any field, whether it's science and technology, the arts, humanities.
It's like we're giving them this toolkit for navigating
Exactly.
the complexities of the world.
Absolutely.
And it all comes back to patterns.
It really does.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. And I think it's important to remember that every child learns at their own pace.
Right.
And so we need to be patient and encouraging and celebrate those small victories along the way.
Yeah, it really is amazing to think about like how we can change our whole approach to learning,
Yeah.
especially in those early years when there's just so much development happening.
It's such a crucial time.
Instead of drilling those facts, it's like fostering this love of exploration and this fascination with patterns.
Yeah, you want to get them excited about learning.
Exactly.
And that shift in mindset can make all the difference.
Yeah.
When kids see learning as an adventure instead of a chore,
Right.
their natural curiosity takes over, and that's when the real magic happens.
Yeah. So for all those parents out there listening who are maybe, feeling a little overwhelmed with their child's struggles,
Yeah.
what's like the one key takeaway you want them to leave with today?
If I could leave parents with just one thought, it would be to believe in your child's ability to learn and grow. Every child has unique strengths and challenges.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just a matter of finding the right approach to unlock their potential.
So meeting them where they are and giving them the tools they need to succeed.
And remembering that learning is a journey, not a race.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to slow down and take detours and even make mistakes along the way.
Right.
Those are all valuable learning experiences.
That's such a good point.
Yeah,
Well, I think we've really covered some important ground today.
we have.
Unpacked a lot of insights
Yeah,
about pattern recognition and its impact on learning.
I think so.
So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of our listeners out there,
Yeah.
we encourage you to, continue exploring the world of patterns with your children.
Absolutely.
You might be surprised at what you discover together.
You really might.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.